I am so happy to have been invited back here. And I say back here because I was living in Fort Wayne, Indiana, the first time I ever heard of something called genealogy. And today is my birthday, by the way. And so the birthday present, the man who taught me how to do genealogy happens to be here and still working at the library. And so I thank Kurt Witcher for setting me on a path that has been with me for the rest of my life, changed the entire trajectory of my life, introduced me to something I love still passionately so long, since 40 years ago when I walked into the library and asked, what is this thing? I am going to be introducing you to a product, a tool that changed everything for me in graduate school. I worked on my master's and then my PhD in history, and I was working full time. It's something that is very hard to do. And I wanted to do it, but I had to have help. And Zotero got me through it. What I didn't know is that Zotero was going to be brilliant for genealogy too, when I finished my PhD and began to blend the two things together. So I am sharing with you something I am passionate about, I believe in. I believe it can revolutionize the work we do. Some of you are already believers. I saw some of you signing in, and you've been on it as long as I have. I especially thank that Muskogee, Oklahoma crew who has showed up, and they are working hard on figuring out how to make Zotero work for genealogy. So I'm very excited. I'm going to probably go a little bit over the time I'm supposed to. I'm going to try not to, because I don't want to cut into your Q&A too much, but I do encourage you, if there are questions you have that don't get answered, I encourage you to email me with those if we cut off before you can do that. I'm happy for you to do that. Let me start with telling you a little bit about this company, Zotero. Zotero was designed by historians, and that's part of why I probably love it so much. It started out with historians needing to figure out, how can we capture all this information? How can we cite sources without it being a hard thing to do? How can we analyze things? And they built this, but it became so valuable that is used worldwide. It is used in many, many fields. But history is still its hub. All right, so if you decide you're going to download this very night, or maybe even while I'm talking, this is where you will do that. I hope you'll give it a try if you haven't already. This is their site, zotero.org, and this is where you can create group libraries if you're going to share information with other people, where their documentation is, their forums, and where you can come in. If you log in and have you're syncing to their site, you can actually look at your Zotero information wherever you are, even if you're not on your own computer. But let me describe it for you the way they do. They describe it as a free, easy to use tool to help you collect, organize, annotate, cite, and share research. I call it my knowledge management system because it really does more than just help me with research. It's my memory. At 64 years old, you start to really need something to help you with your memory, and this makes sure that I never lose anything. So most of tonight, we're going to be walking through Zotero as it looks on your desktop. I'm going to be showing you how it's laid out, because quite honestly, that was the hardest thing for me to figure out when I started using this maybe 18 years ago. It was a baby product then, and it had no documentation. So I want to make sure that when you download this, you already know what you're looking at, and you maybe begin to get inspired with some of the things I talk about to see how you might use it for your research. So let me open up Zotero. And this is what it looks like. I have been very careful not to gum up this software with very highly intensive things that are going to shut you down, slow you down. So it's very sparing in the way it looks. And that's one of the brilliant things about it. I did want to mention, by the way, they use the word free in describing the product. I used it for 17 years free, completely happy with what I had. I wrote my first book, maybe my second book, about Zotero while I was still using it free. And I was completely content, and I taught people how to use it that way. I have since gotten the delicious taste of having unlimited free storage there. And so I encourage you to think about that for, once that you're sold on this, to think about that. But I'm going to be talking about some of the things that will work for free, and some of the things that might make you think, I'll go for unlimited storage. But I do want to make it very clear that you can be completely happy with this, very productive with this for free for the rest of your life. All right, so this workspace gives you these panes. This is your collections pane. This is item details. This, when I actually click on something, is going to be, excuse me, this is item list. These are item details. And these are tags that allow you to filter things. I am going to be going fast here, but again, this is going to be available for you on video. So don't worry about what you might miss. You're going to be able to come back, go through, pause as much as you need. But let's start with the collections, because it's very much like your file management system on your computer. It's a way of using folders, and you can just have folders inside of folders like you can in many of your file management software online. You can search for your folders with this little magnifying glass up here at the top. You can have unlimited folders inside of folders, by the way. I actually asked the programmers at Zotero about that, and they said there's not a limit. But of course, as you add more inside of more, it's going to eventually go out of sight here. So you might not ever go to the full limits of what you can do with folders inside of folders. But when you click on one of these, I'm going to go into, I have sorted these by my people, and I'm going to go down to a family surname person right here. And I tend to use these little emojis. You'll see those a lot here. I use emojis so that my eye can be drawn to things that matter to me a great deal, or so that I can make things sort to the top. Everything goes in alphabetical order inside a folder, as most filing systems would do. But if you want something to pop to the top, an emoji will do that, an underscore, a space, or you can put something. I'm going to click on the general resources here, but you can put a Greek letter in front and it will actually sort to the bottom if there's something you want to sort to the bottom. I'm looking here at, now it's filtered down to just the items that are in the general Burson resources folder. When I was up here in my library, it had everything that I own in here, which is, as of now, 10,656 items. But when you go into any folder, it's going to narrow it down to what you've put in a folder. All right, so while you're in the item list, you have a great deal of control over what you're going to see. You can right-click on these headings and choose a different set of headings. If you go to more columns, there are many other options for the things that you can display in your headings. You can sort them by clicking on it. You can sort it forward and backwards alphabetically. And so that gives you a lot of power over what you're going to see here. You can have multiple ones of these here if you want. You have control over this screen. You can make things bigger. You can make something disappear if you want that gone. You can just make it disappear and you can bring it back. Sorry, this mouse has been a little funny with me lately. I'm going to do it this way. Up here in your view menu, you have options, a lot of options for how you're going to make this look. So I'm going to turn back on the item pane. You have these buttons up above that mostly have to do with creating what lives in your item list. Your citation information, attachments, and notes. Let's look at one of these. This is a book, and you can see I have multiple icons on here because there are things that mean something to me with what these icons mean, and I'll talk more about that in a second. But underneath, I have a note about this, what I found in this book. I have the book itself. I have this book in hard copy, but I also digitized it so that it would be in here and that I could search it at one point. So I have the PDF of the book. I have a note on it. As I clicked on these things, you see that the item details pane over here, the item pane starts to fill up with information. So right now I'm on a book, so it's showing an item type book, and it shows the fields that matter to a book. With authors, you can actually do this little plus sign, and you can add another author if you want. Or if it's an editor you want to add, or a contributor. If you were doing an interview, it could be interviewer and interviewee that might show up here. So everything is context sensitive to what item type you've chosen. The buttons that you have over here are allow you to jump to different layers of information about the item, in this case, the book. And you can also see them by just scrolling down and activating things that way. I usually do it this way. You can have an abstract of whatever the item is so that you just narrow down what it is. You might just pull the abstract that your library has in its card catalog or some other description you found to put that in so that you know what you're looking at. This gem clip is the attachments that are here. And here you see that book again, the same thing you saw right here. And you can click on that and open it. We'll go into that soon. Notes. If you look at notes, this note also is duplicated because it's in both places. But you can click on this little picture of a library and it will show you where you've put the item in your collections over here. And this can be very valuable because you can put one thing in many, many different folders. Let's say you have a photograph of a family reunion in 1907, and you have multiple people in your collection system, and you want to find that photograph anytime you go to any of their folders. You can just drag it into all of them, and it still just exists once in the system. So it's brilliant for some of the complex kind of filing we have to do in genealogy and history. And then tags, I've got to tell you, my first book, I don't even know if it mentions tags much because I wasn't using them. I didn't know what a value they could be. But in the last 2 years, I've come to treasure them even more than having the collections because they are so amazing for being able to filter information, put layers of what you care about, and have it narrow down sources to what matters. In this case, I have put a number of different tags on it. It's about Randolph County, Alabama. It's a local history. It's a church history at the same time. So I've put those three, but I also put things that help me find the thing, help me know things about it. For example, on hand. I only started this a couple of years ago, so there are a lot of things in my system that I haven't flagged with on hand. But now, whenever something comes along, if I have it in the house, whether it's hard copy or electronic, if I have access to the full thing in my home, it says on hand. So that helps me not to buy something new that I didn't need or download something I already have. I also have moved most of the books that are on my shelves in my house. I used to have a house just every wall was full, and I decided I didn't want the dust and I wanted the extra, I don't know how many square feet you get when you remove the box, all the shelves. And so I moved things into boxes, and every time something got moved into a box, it got flagged in here as to what box it's in. So I have my stacks in the basement, and I have found actually that I find books a lot better now that they're off the shelves than I did before. I also flag if something's digital. So, you can create whatever system is going to help you keep up with what you have and not duplicate what you have and to make the best use of it all. The search field up here allows you to search in several different ways. You can look for title, creator, year. You can go with all fields and tags, and that is where you search notes that you've taken. Everything is everything. It searches everything it can possibly find. And advanced search is fabulous when you start to get, like me, 10,600 items or whatever. You can do a search and just have too many, but this will allow you to say, give me only magazine articles that were published before 1900 that mention opium. All right, and then it will narrow down till you have a manageable list and you can find what you're missing. I have never had something I put in here that I couldn't find again, and that's saying something at age 64. All right, so I want to now show you what it would look like if we go back to my library. So up here, so I've got all of my items here. If I click on that on hand right here down in the tag selector, it is going to bring up everything that I have flagged as having on hand. As I said, many of them I haven't flagged because I only started doing this a couple of years ago. But you'll also see that it put an orange dot by all of these. And that helps me visually. I mean, right now they're all orange, but if I am looking at my library, generally I can, as I'm looking, those orange dots quickly tell me, oh, I got that, I got that. So you can use the color coding in whatever way it works for you. Right now, there's only 9 colors available, so you want to save it for the most important things. But you can use the little icons as well. If you use an icon in front of a tag name, it puts it in here as well visually. So it doesn't put the label beside it. So I don't know all the box numbers here out here, but I know this is a box down in my stacks in my basement. So I know that I have that there. So that's one thing that is wonderful about tags, one of many, many things. Let's talk about notes. Notes, I actually use more than anything else. Now, certainly you can take notes on what you are looking at. You can take notes about a source, about a book you're reading or something like that. But I often have notes that are just completely freestanding and about something like, what's the color of the paint on my wall? I want to make sure that in 5 years, when there's damage to that wall and I need to paint over it, that I can find that paint color again. I use it for everything. You can create little notes for everything that is useful to you. Now, one thing while we're thinking about it, don't use it for passwords, credit card numbers, or social security numbers. All right, those vital numbers. This is open source software. It is not designed to be super high security. So don't use things that could end up on the dark web. So I'm going to show you with notes. You can attach notes, as I said, to anything that you're looking at here. So I'm looking at a book that is a recollections, and I apparently took notes. This was long ago. So you can take very simple notes like this as you're working. But you also, here's one way I bring in notes, because a lot of times I am looking at let me put this column over on the side. But a lot of times I am reading a book in my Kindle Scribe, all right, which if you have a Kindle Scribe, you can actually handwrite and scribble and all kinds of things in there. But you can then email the notes to yourself, and that just becomes a PDF that you can pull in here that's now searchable. So every note you highlighted in that book now becomes your reminder of what you valued in that book. So you don't have to go to your Kindle to look these things up. They are with you. If you are using a regular Kindle, not a Scribe, I think that you can go to Amazon, and there's a page where you can find any notes that you've taken. You can copy those, you can bring them and put them in a note. I'm not a Mac user, but I am told that there's some third-party products that will allow you to extract your iBook notes. So look for something that lets you get your notes out of whatever your e-readers are, and make sure they're in here so everything you need to find is in one place. Now, let me go back here again. I want to talk about attachments. And in this case, you see that I've got a book a newspaper article attached here. And newspapers.com, by the way, is great at pulling Zotero information in, and we'll show you the Zotero connector in a minute. So you'll see how, I'm not going to do it on newspapers, but it's great on newspapers. So whatever attachment you have, you can add new attachments either by going up to this button right here, and you see it says add file or add link to file. You can do it the same way with right-clicking on the major heading here and doing that you want to add attachment, file or linked. File or linked is a very important consideration. If you want your Zotero to stay free, you need to link to attachments outside of Zotero, not pull them in. If you begin to fill up Zotero space with PDFs, with spreadsheets, with pictures and things like that, Zotero cannot sync your information without charging you once you get over 300 megabytes of space. They give you 300 megabytes. But this is important and incredibly generous of them. All these things that are text, all of this, you can do without ever being charged against your 300 megabytes. All right. The only thing that gets charged are those resource intensive things like pictures, like PDFs. So those need to be kept outside of Zotero, and you link out to them. The beautiful thing is that once you link out to them, they act just like they're in Zotero, except if you go to the library and use their computer and pull up Zotero, what's left on your computer at home won't be there with you. You do have to make decisions. If you're linking out to something, you have to decide what you're going to name it, where you're going to put it. And you got to make sure that once you name it and you put it there, you keep it there so you don't break the link with Zotero. So there are considerations. Your handout begins to lead you to places for you to make those decisions. I encourage you to think about my book about Zotero 7, because It will help you with just making those decisions. But I learned Zotero without my book, and you can too. So, but I just want to, for those of you who think that might be easier for you to go through step by step and ramifications, that's available to you and listed on your handout. But anyway, you've got to keep those attachments outside. So you're going to link out to them if you're keeping it free. All right, now I'm going to go to the Zotero Reader. This is your main workspace at Zotero, but with Zotero 6, they added a layer behind it that is the Zotero Reader. Here you can read PDFs, you can read EPUB files, and you can read web pages. And so I'm going to start with this particular thing that I've been working on. It's a Supreme Court case, and as you can see, we've got 3 panes. And you can make the 2 side panes disappear if you want to make what's in the middle huge, which you sometimes need to do. But anything you highlight, anything you type in as a text note, any sticky notes you use in here, it all becomes annotations over here on the left, each one individual, so that you begin to collect everything over here that matters. Now, if your PDF is living off-site, it's not in Zotero, it's in your hard drive somewhere else, this will still work exactly the same way, except that this stays here. So if you go out of Zotero and you open that same PDF up on your file manager, you're not going to see the highlights because they live here for a good reason. It has to do with the syncing and completely gumming up your mechanism. If you were trying to sync a 200-page book every time you highlight a few words. So this makes it very efficient, but that's just a word about what will happen. And so that you need, if you want that PDF to go out with the highlights, you can export it from here and it's fine. But I just wanted to let you know why you might suddenly go out and open that PDF outside of Zotero and think, I highlighted this thing. You did, just come back into Zotero. You also can move all of these into OneNote. I don't mean Microsoft OneNote, I'm talking about a single note. And that can be very helpful because these are not going to show up out there in our item list that we went through. They would make it massive and huge. You don't want them to show up individually, but you can create a note, and I'm clicking on the little note icon over here. Let's see. There we go. You can say that I want to create a note, and up here in this little plus sign, and you can say add item note from annotations, and it's going to pull all of those together in one single note for you. So they still exist separately. They exist in one note together. And when you go out to the main thing, you can look at that note so that you really have your entire document, everything you cared about in the document boiled down for you in one note, which is very helpful. EPUB files, this was added with Zotero 7, and I am told that EPUBs are the way the world's going to be moving with ebooks. PDFs will probably begin to not see as much light of day, and even Kindle books and things like that are probably going to be shifting more to EPUB files. And so they have set this up so EPUBs can be brought in and can be marked up just like everything else. Also, web snapshots. If you want to get a snapshot of a web page you're on, I'm going to show you how to do it. But if it brings that into here, it's taking up space. So if you're going to get it to capture web pages for you, and it does it beautifully, if you do that, you're going to need to have probably the unlimited storage to do that. And it might be worth it because the web pages you go to may change after you find that wonderful piece of information you want. It might disappear. The whole website might disappear, that piece of information might, and you may need later to prove that there was a moment when what you cited from that website was actually there and said what you said it said. So this is a way to capture that. All right, I'm going to show you what I call a compilation note. This is an add-on to Zotero, a free add-on called Better Notes. And it allows you to pull information from many different sources together. And that is something so incredible. If we're really trying to think like historians, like genealogists, we're trying to think It is wonderful to be able to have OneNote that pulls everything in, and it even allows you to link out to the original notes. Let's say that you're working on a problem, you've got multiple people with the same name in a town, and you've got to figure out which one's your ancestor. Well, that's not easy to do with online tree software. Online tree software has a very specific and beautiful purpose, but analyzing lots of sources to come up with a solution to your problem, and to be able to write up that solution so that you can defend your choice of what birth date you chose or what man you said was the John Smith that's in your family. This is where you can do that analytical work and draw in, and it actually does a table of contents on the side. If you're into mind maps and bubble maps, it can actually show the information in a different form with those, or it can show a bubble map here. It's not the way my mind works, but I know that a lot of people work best with those kind of diagrams, so you have that option. And then it shows you everything you linked into and linked out from in building this. So you can just build a massive document that analyzes all the problems you're trying to solve about one thing and build it there. So I love Better Notes. This is another thing I use this for, and I'm going to turn that one off so you can blow it up big, but transcribing. You have a letter and you pull in the digital version of it and you do the transcription of it. Very helpful. Now I'm going to talk about the thing that first sold me on Zotero, because believe me, I talked myself out of it several times because it was ugly. I got to be honest, it was ugly and it was free. I didn't think I could trust it. This was back in graduate school, about 2006, but I am going into a work folder, an empty folder right here, because I'm going to show you the Zotero connector. This is where you can go out into the internet and you can just pull things in, and it will do the work for you whenever it can, showing you, it will pull in all of the data so you don't have to type. It's fabulous. That was going to save my my skin in graduate school, and that sold me. So I'm going to show you how you can do this. Let's just go to a blog post. Okay, this is my website. Let's say that you've read my introduction to genohistory and you want to put that into Zotero. All right, so you can just click on this icon up here. If the icon doesn't show up, go to the handout. It tells you what to do, or tells you where to go to learn what to do. But you click on this button and it tells you it's putting it in that work folder. So when I go back to Zotero, there it is. It's in here and it has all the information as you would want it for citing that blog. It also has grabbed a snapshot of that. Let me show you what that looks like and why that's valuable. We talked about the fact that you need to be able to show the website as it was the day you saw it. So if I go out of business tomorrow and I get rid of that, you would still have that image to keep for as long as you want it. Let's go now to, I'm going to go back to the work folder first, but Amazon. You can do this on Amazon. You can do this on WorldCat. They are both set up so that they can read, so that Zotero can read their data, their metadata. So a lot of us probably have used this book or some version of it. This time the icon looks like a book because it's recognizing a book. When it was on the blog post, it recognizes it as a blog post, so it knows what to do with it. I click on that and go back in, and here that is. All right, so it's put the information in that it drew from the metadata. Now, if the person on the other end did a bad job of the metadata, you're going to see some messy stuff here, and you might have to clean it up. Once in a while, you have to do that. A lot of your local libraries have their catalog set up so that their metadata is revealed for Zotero. And that's how WorldCat does it. And so you can check your local library and see if you can pull books down. What you might find, oh no, it's trying to update me. Sorry about that. Very interesting. Oh, I just disagreed, so it's not going to do it right now. Okay, but I'm going to go to Family Search right now because I want you to see what it looks like if the library has not enabled Zotero. It's going to have a little gray box here. I mean, a little gray document, And all it knows is that it's seeing a web page here. It doesn't know that I'm looking at a book here because Family Search has its metadata hidden. And any library that has it hidden is not going to be able to send it over in its original intention. But you can still grab it. All right. So if I click on this, you can at least get it to send you the URL, which sometimes is the hardest thing to type correctly anyway. So I come over here. Now it called it what it knew from the information that was available. It called it Family Search Book Search results. You can then just change this to book, and then you can change the information yourself. You can put it in here, but then it's at least saved you from having to type that. And there's probably a shorter version of that you would look for anyway, but that's what you can do if it doesn't understand what it's looking at, if it can't see the metadata. If you use articles like from JSTOR, which I used heavily in graduate school, but I also use now in doing local history and also in filling the information about my ancestors around and the contextual stuff. JSTOR is great. It allows Zotero to read its metadata. You can click there and it's going into our work folder. So you see here that that article has come in as a journal article. You've got the title, author, and all of those things, but it's also brought in the PDF of that article. All right, so we've got two things in here that have come in automatically that could count against your Zotero storage if you're trying to stay free. Your handout shows you how to set two things in your settings. I'm going to edit settings. These two things, this and this, are going to turn off that automated pulling in of the intensive resources. So turn those off first thing if you're trying to stay free, because I get more emails about that. It's used up my space. It will, because it automatically sets those to be pulled for you. It's a great convenience, but not if you want to keep it free. So turn those off until you're ready to pay for storage. All right, let's look at citations, and I'm going to show you, and I don't know how many of you are writing and need to do footnotes and that kind of thing. You never know when you're going to have the need to create a bibliography or create footnotes. And so it's very wonderful what it'll do. When it installs when you install Zotero on your hard drive, it will look for word processors it recognizes. And if it recognizes the word processor, it'll go on and add add-ons. So Zotero has been added to my Word documents. It does it in Google Docs. I haven't tried it in all word processors, but I think it works in most of the major ones. So it brings up a toolbar that you can use that connects it to Zotero. So I've already got some things in here, as you can see, but let's say that I need to footnote this last sentence. I can go add, edit citation. It's usually going to pull whatever you were looking at last to the top, which is very helpful because usually you're looking at something right before you cite the source. In this case, I'm looking for something else, so I can just type in, I'm looking for Jack Boozer's thesis, and it comes up, and I can just type in 29, and it adds page 29, and then I've got it here. So right at the bottom, I've got the citation for him. You can come back and change these. You can do multiple citations in one footnote, as you often have to do. And once you've got everything, you can come and do your bibliography by clicking right here. And it looks at everything you've got. It puts in alphabetical order and it creates it in bibliographic style. So very helpful. This on my dissertation was amazing, but I am doing it for articles that I write now. Very, very valuable. I want to show you, and this may push us out a little bit on time, but I think this is very valuable. I've only started doing this recently. I am going to look at Ancestry. All right, with Ancestry, I got so frustrated with having to try to fill in the blanks for sources on Ancestry, especially when I've already done the work in Zotero. This is also true of most of your other online tree software, Family Tree Maker, some of the others. I wanted to do something that just allows me to do a quick copy paste. So what I do now is when I have to create a source in Ancestry, they all say see detail as the main source. All right, so I'm going to edit the citation, but I come in and I choose a source called see detail. I've put a space at the front of it, I think, so that it always pops to the top. So I don't worry about creating any other source but that. But then I paste the bibliographic information straight out of Zotero into either this detail line or the transcription line if it's too long for the detail. And then I say what it's associated with in my facts, and I submit it. So while it's slightly less convenient for the person looking at this once I'm done, let's go back. Oh, here we go. What they'll see the see detail, they'll say, oh, she's got a source on death. They come up here and they say see detail, and there is everything they need to find the source. Even if it's not the perfect syntax for ancestry, they've got what they need. And I usually start with the page number and then I paste the thing in. So that is saving me time and giving me some peace of mind that I'm putting what needs to be in ancestry for the source, but I am not taking a huge amount of time to reinvent the wheel on the source information. Now, I'm going to look at a couple of creative ways to do this. And good, I think we're doing good on time, so I think I can do all of these, and then we can get to your questions. One of the brilliant things about Zotero is that with tags and folders and all these different things, you can really create your own hacks. You can create ways to use it that somebody else might not have thought of before. Let me start with research plan. Okay, we're going to go to a research plan. I used to do these. I actually create Word document templates that are for research plans, but I thought one day, okay, why wouldn't I put this in here so that it's a work in progress. I've got it in here and I can add to things as I find more information. I have and I need a template, and so I created one. Here's the template. It's a Better Notes feature. Again, that Better Notes is an add-in you can plug in. And so when I tell the system that I want to do a research plan, it brings in this structure. And I put placeholders reminding myself what I want to put in those things. And if it should be a bulleted list, I went ahead and made it bulleted so that this would just be a simple way to create a very consistent format for a research plan so I can tackle questions here. That was eye-opening to me when I realized I don't have to do this outside of Zotero anymore. I also am passionate about a timeline. I believe that timelines are critically important for both genealogy and history. So I just make my timeline items. Sorry, guys, I keep double clicking on something instead of single clicking. Let's go back. There we go. So I've got timeline items just floating in the 10,000 items. So I have a tag on anything I consider a timeline item. So I'm going to click this tag and it brings up a timeline that I'm building for the projects I'm working on. Mine are mostly local history using genealogy. You may be using history for genealogy. So it's very similar, but sometimes just with a slightly different outcome that we're looking for. But I use the presentation item type. This is how it's a hack. I wanted to find the item type that had the fewest fields so that I wouldn't be bloating the system with empty fields. But I put whatever that happened in the title. In the presenter, which is the creator field, I put an asterisk and then I put a subject heading rather than the name of whoever created something. That allows me, if I want to just sort or search just on the things that related to Native Americans or research or settlement, I can do that. I can also use tags to make an even finer way to filter my timeline on. If I just want the timeline of Sally Ladiga, I can do a Sally Ladiga tag and mark every item that matters to Sally Ladiga's life. I also, oh, by the way, I used the presenter to do these headings because sometimes you're going to want to. This is about Native Americans and government. So I add, like I'm adding an author, I add a presenter with government as the name. I also gave myself a syntax. This isn't necessarily the syntax I would use on anything else with dates, and it's definitely not the syntax I normally use on place. But if it's a timeline item, for my purposes, I make it state colon and then county, and then it can be city if I don't have the county, or Creek Nation in this case, so that I can either do a search and just say AL colon and have it filter down to that, or I can sort in order by place so that I have things, all the Creek Nation things together, all the Jacksonville things together. So that was my way of making a timeline that was going to really be effective for my use. You can make it do whatever works for you. I'm going to deselect the timeline so we go back to the full thing here. Master maps are like timelines. I believe time and space are important, and I do my genealogy and my history with a master map. Now, I used to use GIMP software to do that, but I have since discovered QGIS, and it is such a miracle for building maps with layers. So, but the thing is, when you're building a master map and pulling together everything you find that affects a map, you can't put all the detail you need to know about everything you put on the map. So having a way to do it with legends makes a lot of sense. Right. So when I was doing it in GIMP, I had it in grids to narrow things down. So that's why you're seeing these grids. But this is how I would do it. If I only could fit an AAA on the map, I would put AAA in the grid that I called J7 on my map, because it was a huge map. And then I could put, it's a note, so I could put information that I found about that, and I could link to a whole folder of information I have about the Adderholt's Mill. So all you see on my map is AAA sitting in the J7 grid. But if I come in here, I can find all the information that tells me why I put that on the map in the 1840 layer, because I found evidence that it was there in that decade. So keeping up with the background information that supports the decision you're making about putting something on a master map is great use of Zotero, because you already have those sources here. So you might as well connect them all together. And then my last hack is I wanted a way to keep up with what work I've done and haven't done. So I created a little folder called My Research Planning. It's got 3 subfolders: research task, repository prep, and processing research finds. With research task, if I have a question I need to answer, what was somebody's middle name? What date did the town actually get founded? When there are conflicts that I need to work through, I put the Q in front of those. I put DO if there's a task I need to do. I put RP if there's a research plan I'm working on that person. So it just becomes a tickler reminding me of things I need to work on. And I also add these tags. The lightning bolt means do this fast. I got to tell you, I probably put those lightning bolts on 3-4 years ago. So I have a tendency to let my inbox pile up. But I put a pause button if it's something that can wait. So those just visually send me where I need to go in the list. The thing I use the most is the repository prep. You will be looking at a catalog, or you'll be looking at the footnotes in a book you're reading, and you realize that there's a source you really need to see, but it's at the Alabama Department of Archives and History. So you go ahead and put it in here as a source, and then you drag it into the folder for the Alabama Department of Archives and History. And next time you go there, you know exactly what you're looking for. You already have the numbers. And this helps you to know when you've got enough at any one repository to justify that plane ticket or that trip that you need to take to go look at the things that are still hard copy. And then the last thing I do, and this is back to the inbox thing, when you come home from a courthouse with tons of things, for me these days, I don't come home with any paper. It's snapshots in my phone if they'll let me do it. But I come home with all of these things I took pictures of, and and as I did that, I took the captioning information, what was the source I was pulling from. But when you come home, that's the real work, right? When you have to actually start going line by line and all of these things you found and put the information in the family tree. So most of this is things that need work in the family tree, and this is my trigger that I haven't done it yet. So it's reminding me. But unlike the inbox on your desk with paper in it that ends up piling up and piling up and piling up, and you no longer remember that you once had a great piece of information about this family, this you can go ahead and drag it into the families folder too. So it exists in both places. So that's how I handle my inbox now. It's a load off my mind. Okay, so I think I just went a few minutes over. I do want to remind you that the handout has some basics. You really, if you're going to load this up tonight, please load this up tonight and go ahead and give it a try. You have some basics there about decisions you need to make and how to get started. If you want more of a step-by-step procedural thing, you can look at a quick guide to Zotero 7, and the link is in your handout. And remember to turn off those two settings before you start pulling PDFs and web pages in that are going to glut up your free space. That's what I wanted to share with you. And I'm going to leave the screen up since some of your questions may be best answered with this up. So I'm going to turn it back over to Allison.
Hello, thank you so much. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
All right, so yes, we do have questions. Let's get started. Where do you get the icons to add to the folder list?
You know, I actually need to start putting that in the handout because it gets asked every time, and it's a great question. What you do if you're on a PC, let me create a tag here. So we have an example. I'm in the tag. I hold down that Windows key. That's two keys to the left of your space bar, and then I press my period. All right. It's actually a Windows feature. It's not a Zotero feature. And then you can search. I use these two all the time, so they're always at the top. But I could have said alert, and it would have brought this up. I could say lightning, and there's lightning. All right. And so then you just click on it and there it is. And then you can type what you want that to mean. I've already got it in the system as high priority. So that's how you do those. You can do those in the tags. You can do them in your notes, and you can do them in the names of your collections.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, for Amazon Fire, what Zotero app do you recommend for setup syncing? They currently have Zot Easy2 installed and they're not happy with it.
Yeah, Zot went out of, I think really went out of being developed with Zotero 6 and probably hasn't been carefully developed since Zotero 5. So I used it with PDFs back in graduate school, but I stopped using it. So I'm not sure if there's still a way for you to sync it with, it's something we need to talk about. Why don't you email me so that we can look at that together and see, because it's something I do want to know the answer to, but I'm not sure what people are doing who used to use Zotfile to move PDFs to their Kindles.
Awesome. And then is there one for an Android that you would recommend?
Well, the Android, they just came out with the Android version of Zotero. And so are we talking about Android book reader? Maybe I'm not sure. I mean, there's an Android version of Zotero, so you can read EPUBs in there. But I'm not familiar with an Android version of readers of e-readers. I actually there's several I have put on my phone when I was testing my EPUB, but let me see if there was, I'm going to quickly look here because it does seem like there was something I liked best. I know I tried Google Playbooks. I think that works. I tried Read Era, and I'm not sure if that was best. And I pulled up EPUB Reader. These were mostly for me to do EPUB files because I use my Kindle Scribe for Kindle things. But yeah, there's several. If it will do an EPUB and let you annotate, those are some that I apparently tried with some success. But that might be something for a future book for me to look at some of these external products and how they work best.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
Someone's asking, how do you link outside of Zotero?
All right, let's experiment with that. So let's say I'm right here on this Baptist of Bibb County, and I have a PDF out there that I want to pull in, but I don't want it using up my free space. I can either use this button or right click on it and say add attachment, I'm going to say linked file. All right. And then it's going to bring up my file manager. And so I find it wherever I've stored it on here, transcript, and open. All right. So it's going to pull it in. And so now, do you see that it has a little chain link on it? If it's got the chain link, it is linked out to. If it's clean and doesn't have that on it, then it's in Zotero. So that'll sort of tell you if you end up with a problem and you start to see your space disappearing, look for the PDF that doesn't have the chain link. But that's how you pull it in. But you also, by the way, can just drag and drop it from your file manager. Another trick though, that's important, because if you drag and drop it, it's going to embed it as stored in Zotero unless you hold down your Shift key and Control key. Hold down Shift Control, drag and drop it, and then let go of Shift and Control, and it will make it a linked file. It's slightly different with Mac, and I can't remember what the keys are with Mac. Maybe some of you know can put it into the chat for the Mac users.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
To link to a PDF on my home computer, would I need to leave my home computer turned on to view it in Zotero through the app or at a library?
You cannot look at an external attachment outside of Zotero. You can't look at it through Zotero when you're away from your own laptop. But if you are putting those attachments into Dropbox instead of on your hard drive, then you can go into Dropbox from wherever you are. You're not going to have an automatic link to it, but you'll know it's there, and you can pull up your Dropbox. Now, also an important thing to note, as you guys are going to download this tonight and put it on your system, do not put the Zotero software in Dropbox. Don't put it anywhere but where it wants to go on your hard drive, because it will get corrupted. And with syncing from the Dropbox, it is going to get corrupted. So you can put Zotero where Zotero wants to put it, but your attachments that you're linking out to, they can be Dropbox. If it's Google, if you've got Google Docs out there, you can, or Google Drive, you can't do it quite the way you can do with Dropbox, where it puts something on your hard drive that acts like your file manager, but you can get the URL from Google. If you're storing something in Google, get the URL and bring it in, and the URL will be your link out to Google.
Other than the Zotero connector, where do you find other vital plugins to install them?
Glad you asked. There is one that and I think it's in your handout. If not, you can say I'm wrong, and maybe somebody should. But there is one plugin that you need to put on that requires you to, do it. I'll say do it the old-fashioned way. But this little puzzle piece, it's called Add-on Market for Zotero. And once you've got that in, it has all the plugins, and you can just install them right out of this. But just getting that first one on, maybe somebody can look and say in the chat if you're seeing it in. I don't have the handout up with me now, but there is. I do know. I did a video about how to set this up. All right, so look for my YouTube channel, genohistory.com, and you'll find one of those videos describes this, because it may be the one about actions and tags, or it might be about better notes, but in it I tell you how to do this. So, and yeah, if any of you are having trouble finding it, it's not in your thing, just email me and I will find it and send you the link to the video that shows you how to do the first one. And after that, it's just easy. You just say, install me, whatever, and it will do those for you. They're of varying degrees of quality. I definitely recommend Better Notes, Add-on Market, Actions and Tags. But some of them are not as good. It just all depends on whether they're being kept up and what the person who first created it had in mind. So,
Would you please repeat what two settings to turn off before
yes,
something?
great idea. Great idea. Go to Edit, go to Settings. It's going to be on the General tab, and it's under File Handling. The first one turns off pulling in PDFs, and this one at the bottom here turns off getting snapshots.
Thank you.
Sure.
Get PDFs inside Zotero and later need your space or near your space limit. Can you delete the PDFs from Zotero to free up your space?
Yes. Now, will it be elegant? Here's what you can do. Zotero is stored. Let me see if I can do this without getting too in the weeds, but your Zotero on your system is, I think, in what program files. Oh, all of a sudden I can't find it. There is a folder that has Zotero, and inside it is your storage folder. Everything that you have put in Zotero is sitting in that folder. And that's good news for all of you. If Zotero went out of business tomorrow, you don't lose anything. It's all still sitting on your hard drive. It's just in Zotero's environment. So they're all there. And what you could do is once you find that, and I'm not at the moment finding it, but you can do a search, find the Zotero folder or the storage folder inside of Zotero, do an *.pdf, and let it bring up everything it can find, and then sort the biggest ones to the top, and then you can start moving the biggest PDFs out. Move them over to your hard drive if you want to keep them, and then pull them back into Zotero with links instead of stored.
Thank you. All right, one more question. I know we're not going to get through all of them tonight. I am so sorry, guys, but you have been generously provided Donna's email address. You can reach out to her. You can email us if you have questions that we can help with. But let's go ahead and do one last question. What are your Zotero and AI recommendations?
All right. I have not used a tool that puts those two together. There are some plugins that I've seen that are beginning to work on that, but I haven't done them together. I use them both, and I will pull things from AI and move them into the notes. As a matter of fact, working on NARA, I found tons of letters in NARA that I needed to have transcribed. They were digitized; they just weren't transcribed. So I pulled them in, and I gave AI some rules, and I had it transcribe them. So then I pulled them in as notes on those handwritten letters. So I'm doing it kind of manually right now. I love AI. I am not one of the ones that's terrified of it. I know it has ramifications, but I think that what it can do for us as historians and genealogists, if we're smart about not believing everything we read on it, is pretty amazing. And I was able to transcribe many of the old NARA letters, even badly written ones. So that can be really valuable because now you can search. Once you've transcribed them, let AI transcribe them, put the notes in there with the transcribed letter. It's now searchable. I would suspect at some point that Zotero will learn how to use AI to actually transcribe handwritten documents. And when that happens, it'll be done right there with us. Sure.
Thank you so very much. That was a wonderful presentation. People are very pleased in the chat. I know you probably don't have that up, which is perfect. But thank you. We really appreciate it. I did put the YouTube link in the chat for the Allen County Public Library Genealogy Center. This will be posted there relatively soon after we do some edits. And then I did put the email address for us in the chat if you have any questions that we can help with. But Donna has generously provided her email address in the handout. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank everybody for coming. And thank you, Kurt Witcher, for making my birthday by letting me see the man who started it all. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Pleasure to be here.
Sure.
All right. Well, happy birthday, Donna. And I hope
you.
everyone has a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.